Good evening, everybody. Well, my name is Janice Irving, and I am the League of Women Voters of Plainfield Vice President. Welcome to our celebration of the 100th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment and of the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters of Plainfield is the oldest active league in New Jersey, and we welcome you. And we hope you enjoy the presentation of the Tennessee Women for the Vote. Tennessee Women for the Vote. We have good stuff at the table here. We have registration for voter registration forms. We have applications to join the league, and we hope you take a minute to kind of look over our information and sign up for one or the other, or vote. We have Jocelyn working the table, and we have Catherine. So, how's everybody doing tonight? Oh, it's good. It's so nice to see everybody out here. It's very nice of Ducray to host this wonderful event. It is.
Vote for women! Vote for women! Vote for women! Vote for women! We demand the vote! We demand the vote! We demand the vote! We demand the vote! Vote for women's rights! Vote for women's rights! Vote for women's rights! Vote for women's rights! Equality for us! Equality for us! Equality for us! Equality for us! Equality. No more tyranny! No more tyranny! No more tyranny! No more tyranny! No more tyranny!
I am Catherine Talty Kenny, and on behalf of the Tennessee Equal Suffrage Association and the Tennessee League for Women Voters, we say, votes for women! Votes for women! Votes for women! Votes for women! Thank you for your support of the women vote. Today we need you now more than ever, for in Tennessee we stand on the precipice of the woman vote. Governor Albert Roberts has announced that a special session of the Tennessee General Assembly will be conducted in August, just a few days from now, to discuss ratification of the 19th Amendment. This constitutional amendment would allow women the right to vote in all elections throughout our great nation.
Yes!
35 states have already ratified this amendment. We need only Tennessee's ratification to make it the law of the land.
Number 36!
Number 36! Number 36!
Number 36!
I share the stage with suffragists who have spent many years campaigning for the women vote. We have founded suffrage societies in Knoxville, Nashville, Morristown, Chattanooga, Memphis, and Jackson. We have campaigned for the woman vote at a time when it is thought by many that a woman's place is in the home, and that like children she should be seen but not heard. I'm here today to say that we will be heard!
We will be heard! We will be heard!
Calm down, please calm down. Yes, we will be heard, but we will not stoop to violence for the cause. That being said, I have with me here today a true revolutionary heroine on behalf of women. A woman who has picketed the White House and risked everything for the woman vote. Miss Sue Shelton White of Jackson, Tennessee. Though some of you may not agree, Miss White has the distinction of being the only Tennessean to be arrested for her suffrage work.
Yes!
She will tell us now of her ordeal. Miss White?
Sir, I will not go home until every woman in Tennessee and the United States has the vote. Should not all who are governed by the law, and that includes women, have a voice in making the law? We women have too long been denied this right.
That's right.
And I will not go home because the women before me did not go home. In July 1848, an Equal Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York to discuss the rights of women.
Yes.
Convention attendees resolved that woman is man's equal, was intended to be so by the Creator, and nothing but the highest good of the race demands that she should be recognized as such. They said the history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations on the part of man toward woman, having indirect object and absolute tyranny over her. In response to this tyranny, the women of the Seneca Falls Convention resolved that it was the duty of the women of this country to secure to themselves their right of an elective franchise. But now, in 1920, 72 years later, we women still do not enjoy the right of the ballot box. The women of Seneca Falls do not go home, and by their examples, neither will I. Mrs. Kenny asked me to come today to share my story of being arrested for my suffrage work. 2 years ago, I moved to Washington, D.C. and joined the greatest crusade for the women vote, led by the NWP, the National Woman Party. One of our objectives was to secure President Woodrow Wilson's support of an amendment that would give women the vote. The president appeared to be in support of such an amendment. He told French feminists at the Paris Peace Conference that he supported democracy and freedom for all. But 1919, when the amendment was to come up for another vote in Congress, the president did not push the Democratic senators to vote for its approval. To get the president's attention, members of the NWP picketed the White House. There, we burned the president's hypocritical words on pieces of paper in small bonfires we called the Watchfires of Freedom. But the president continued to ignore us. And soon, it appeared we would lose the Senate vote. We had to take a more drastic approach. To get the president's attention, I was asked to lead a large group of suffragists from 22 states in a march to the White House to rally for women's suffrage, which would result in a climax that would be so radical that the police would have no choice but to arrest us. That we would be arrested was certain, but we also ran the risk of being attacked by gangs of rowdy men and boys who always harassed us at suffrage events. Was I brave enough to march to the White House and conduct such an unforgivable deed? Friends back home in Tennessee discouraged me, fearing for my safety. Ultimately, I agreed to lead the march. Our march to the White House began on Sunday afternoon at 4:30, the eve of the Senate vote. About 75 women of the NWP walked in silence as Louisine Havemeyer held high the American flag and others carried banners that said, "The President is responsible for the betrayal of American womanhood," and "President Wilson is the saving the world." Some carried the watchfire urn and kerosene-soaked logs for the fire. But as we approached the White House, I began to have self-doubts again. What will my friends and family think of me? Are we going too far? Is such an act appropriate for me, a woman? The closer we got to the White House, the more quickly my heart beat. Then we arrived. Louisine spoke first. "In every Anglo-Saxon country in the world," she said, "including our mortal enemy of the last war, Germany, women are enfranchised, but not in the United States." While she spoke, the fire was lit as I stepped forward with a paper doll drawn in the image of President Wilson. This time, not just the president's words would burn. There was a flash of fire as I dropped the president's effigy into the flame and shouted, "We burn not the president of a free people, but the leader of an autocratic party organization whose tyrannical power holds millions of women in political slavery." Almost immediately, I was rushed by policemen and roughly pushed into a waiting patrol wagon. I was shaken, but proud. I and others were taken to the old workhouse jail, where we were thrown into dark, rat-infested cells, and we slept on damp straw beds covered by cockroaches, and endured the cold severity of which I have never experienced. As planned, we would not eat the wormy bread they set before us. Instead, we went on a hunger strike, and in 5 days we were released. Congress did not pass the 19th Amendment the next day after the rally as we had hoped, but it did in 1919 June, setting the stage for the battle of state ratification we have today in Tennessee. Burning the president in effigy was one of the most difficult things I was ever asked to do. The greatest sacrifice I have ever made. And nothing but the deepest conviction could have moved me to do it. Mrs. Kenny, I am honored to have served the cause this way. We Southern women have lagged behind our Northern sisters in the movement to win the right to vote. But in Tennessee, we can be proud that we have taken a more active part among the Southern states. Present with me on the platform are Tennessee women who have campaigned for women's suffrage. Among them is Mrs. Martha Elizabeth Alice of Memphis, known as grandmother of the Memphis League for Women Voters. We are honored to have her today and invite her to come forward to share the stories of the women who campaigned here in Tennessee and their suffrage work.
Thank you, Ms. White. One of the most important functions of our campaign for women's suffrage has been to place women's suffrage literature before the public. We have tried novel ways of distributing the leaflets. We visit railway depots. We place them in the timetable slots. We often mingle among crowds formed by some parade or collected by some unusual occurrence and hand out the leaflets. These are all efforts to gather public support for the 19th Amendment that says that no American citizen can be denied the right to vote based on sex. We believe that if you understand the need for women's suffrage, you will favor it. Today, we have a member of our association distributing some suffrage literature that I hope you would read. One of the most popular pieces of literature that we distribute is entitled Perhaps, written by Mrs. Carrie Chapman Catt, President of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Soon, Ms. Catt will be in Nashville to join us in our fight for Tennessee's ratification of the 19th Amendment. I will now read a portion of Mrs. Catt's remarks. She says, perhaps, if you realize that the law guarantees or restricts your own personal liberty, protects or jeopardizes your health, your home, our happiness, regulates the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the books you read, the amusements you enjoy, in fact, permits or prohibits your every act, you would feel a serious obligation to inquire into the nature of such authority over you. Perhaps, if you knew that the booksellers of Denver reported that they sold more books on civil government and political economy in 6 months after women were enfranchised in that state than in 10 years before, you would be convinced that women appreciate the responsibility of voting and prepare themselves to administer the sacrament of citizenship intelligently. Perhaps, if you knew the overwhelming testimony from the most prominent, responsible, and respected citizens of the suffrage states agree that women's suffrage has resulted in better candidates for office, cleaner polling places, quieter elections, and improved legislation, and that women have grown more intelligent, self-reliant, respectful, respected and womanly under its influence, you would feel it your duty to work that such results might come to all states. Many of us women have taken up Mrs. Katz's challenge. We have sent a petition to the Congress with over 400 letters to support our proposed amendment. Now, Tennessee has the opportunity to cast the concluding vote for its ratification. We invite you, the citizens of Nashville, to join us in reaching out to the members of the Tennessee General Assembly and demand that they vote for the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. We have another prominent suffragist with us here today, Mrs. Lyde Smith Merriweather. Mrs. Merriweather was the founder of the very first suffrage league in Tennessee, which was founded in Memphis in May 1889. As one of the chief representatives of liberal thought in Tennessee, we have asked her to share with us some of her reasons for favoring women enfranchisement. I give you Mrs. Lyde Merriweather.
I have often been asked why I am a suffragist. Not only by men, but by women who have yet to join the movement. Now, even at this late hour today, there may be some among you who are undecided. I will address my remarks to you.
Ain't gonna do no good.
We women demand the right to vote because being 21 years old, we protest of being classified as minors. Born in America and loyal to our institutions, we protest against being made perpetual aliens. We constant treasuries of our country nothing. We protest against acknowledging the male papa as our political superior.
That's right.
Being obedient to the law, we protest against being likened to convicts and having the pardoned criminal as our political superior. Being sane, we protest against being likened to lunatics. Having an average amount of intelligence, we protest against being compared to the idiot. We taxpayers claim the right to representation. We married women want our own clothes. We married breadwinners want our own earnings. We mothers want equal partnership in our children. And we educated women want the right to offset the illiterate vote in our state. I am a proud suffragist. This is my suffrage badge. I wear it proudly because it stands for equal rights for all women. As one of the prominent fighters, Susan B. Anthony, for women's enfranchisement once said when she visited Tennessee, we will not rest until a woman's name stands for as much as a man's name. Until a woman's opinion stands for as much as a man's, and that means the ballot. Now, women need the liberty to be able to vote and enter politics if we choose. And only then will we be true citizens of Tennessee and of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Merriweather. Our next speaker is Mrs. Ann Dallas Dudley, who is one of the most influential suffragists in Tennessee. She is founder of the Nashville Suffrage League and is the vice president of the National Women's Suffrage Association. Welcome, Mrs. Dudley.
Thank you, Mrs. Kenny. I am delighted to stand for women's suffrage with you and all the other platform speakers whom I admire so
All right,
greatly.
hold on. Ladies, before we go any further, I demand to be heard.
Excuse me.
I demand to be heard. Evening. I am National Attorney John Jacob Vertrace. And I am here to represent the men's party of the Tennessee State Association opposed to women's suffrage. why women should not be given the vote. Firstly, only those who bear arms should be allowed to vote. Second, as I wrote in my manifesto, which was called to the men of Tennessee on female suffrage, women are too sentimental and emotional to vote on policy matters. And I quote, a woman's life is one of frequent and regular periods marked by mental and nervous irritability to the extent of mental equilibrium being disturbed. Furthermore, I don't believe that the women of Tennessee even want the ballot. And even if they did, the question is not what they want, but what they ought to have. And that question is for men alone to determine. All right, please, indulge me one more moment, please. On the subject of the opposition to women's voting, I would like you to hear from Miss Josephine Anderson Pearson, who is the president of the Tennessee State Association opposed to women's suffrage. Ms. Pearson does not live here. She lives in Mount Eagle, but she is here in Nashville to lobby the state legislators to vote against ratifying the 19th Amendment. Would you please tell everybody why you are against women's suffrage?
I wear this red rose to signify my opposition to women's suffrage. The anti-suffrage movement is a holy war, a crusade I keep in memory of my mother for Southern motherhood, through which her guiding spirit has led me all the way. In fighting against women's suffrage, I am doing God's will. For the Bible says a woman's place is in the home, as a loving wife and mother. You women who ask for the vote are modern Eves who ask for the forbidden fruit that may give its essence of deadly poison in the possible disruption of the home.
Can you believe this trap?
Why leave the innocent beauty of the home to enter the deadly realm of dirty realm of politics? As Charlotte Rowe, a beloved secretary of the National Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage, says, we are determined to prevent women from descending to the political level of men, which, if accomplished, will cheapen women and draw them into the mire of politics. Furthermore, we believe that women...
That is quite enough. You have had your say. Please sit down.
I try to get the vote. Women will not take care of their homes.
To those who believe that we should not allow women to vote because not all women want to vote, I ask, is that a just reason why those who need the ballot for their own protection should not have it? The ballot is not compulsory, and those who wish to sit in the ashes of an old idea while the phoenix of the new is winging its way toward the dawn shall still have the freedom of their will. To those who are against women's suffrage because it will take women outside of the home, well, let me first state the obvious. Many women already work outside the home. Secondly, the assumption that all women have comfortable, attractive homes over which they have absolute jurisdiction is false. Moreover, the modern woman needs to vote to protect her home. In days gone by, she was not obligated to ask city government to make sure that her water supply was pure. She was not obligated to lobby a corrupt city council to make sure we have milk inspectors for our children don't have typhoid and tuberculosis. To those who say that a woman will neglect her home for politics, that type of a woman will likely neglect her home for bridge or something equally less vital. I predict that the cradle will be rocked, the dishes washed, and all by feminine hands, even if it takes women 30 minutes to vote. This objection is constantly advanced by a woman who has all the time in the world to have her hair curled, her nails manicured, her gown trimmed, and who thinks the giving of a pink tea one of the more serious things in life. Give us the opportunity to take politics seriously. Give us the right to vote, and we will make the time to vote. We have heard this argument before from Southern men, that the polling place is too filthy for women, that the Southern woman is too ladylike, too delicate to enter into the filthy realm of politics. I say, give women the right to vote, and they will clean out the polling place. The Southern woman will not hesitate to measure a vote, to cast it, to protect her home and children, or a fellow laborer, or other less fortunate woman. Just because we have men in the audience today who speak against suffrage for women, do not think that we lack support for the woman vote. Our fathers, husbands, and brothers stand behind us, and over the years, many famous Americans have stood up for us as well, including William Lloyd Garrison, Thomas Paine, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Frederick Douglass. Among us today are two great Tennesseans who believe in equal rights for women. I speak of Tennessee legislator from Memphis, Joseph Hanover, and U.S. Congressman Thetis W. Sims. Representative Hanover says that he has always believed women should be equal to men, so he is the perfect person to serve as our suffrage floor leader in the State General Assembly when it considers ratification of the 19th Amendment. We have always been able to rely on Congressman Sims to speak up for women in the U.S. House of Representatives. 2 years ago, writhing with pain from an unset broken arm and shoulder, Congressman Sims delayed seeing a physician so he could cast his vote for women's suffrage. Representative Hanover and Congressman Sims, please stand up and be recognized. Also, I have a letter from Memphis attorney Guston T. Fitzhugh, who is not able to be with us today. You may remember that he drafted legislation in 1917 granting women the vote in Tennessee, but the bill was defeated. Mr. Fitzhugh writes, I favor the enfranchisement of women, both by our state and nation, not only as an act of simple justice to our women, but because I am firmly convinced that it will result in better laws, better officials, better government, market improvement in social and civic conditions, and the advancement of a higher type of civilization. Yes, forward-thinking men support the women vote. And as to Mr. Vertree's argument that women should not vote because only men bear arms, well, women bear armies. In conclusion, I have not yet met a man or woman alive who denies that taxation without representation is tyranny. I have not yet met one who denies that government is for the consent of the governed. This is a government of, for, and by the people, and only the law denies that women are people. Women's votes are women's rights. Thank you.
You suffragists do not understand. Enfranchising women will mean an end to the spirit of the woman of the Old South. I have sent a letter to anti-suffragists in Tennessee urging them to insist that their representatives reject the 19th Amendment. The Tennessee General Assembly must stand up for states' rights, honor, and the safety of Southern civilization. Surely we must recognize that extending the vote to white women will give colored women the vote too. And that'll put an end to our way of life.
As I have crossed the state in support of the vote for all women, I have heard the claim that we cannot enfranchise the white woman because it will enfranchise the Negro woman. I am ashamed to say that here in Tennessee, many of our suffrage associations have excluded colored women for fear that their presence would jeopardize the passage of the 19th Amendment. But I am proud to say that here in Nashville, white women and colored women have come together for the common good. When women were allowed to vote in last year's local election, I conferred with colored women leaders, and together we supported candidates for good government reform in Nashville. With us today are two leaders from the Nashville Negro community who I have asked to be here today to speak on women's suffrage, Mrs. Maddie E. Coleman and Mrs. J. Frankie Pierce. Ladies, please stand. As chairman of the Ratification Committee of the Tennessee League of Women Voters, I appointed Mrs. Coleman State Negro Organizer and Mrs. Pierce as Secretary for Colored Suffrage Work. These women are intelligent, loyal, and have a dignity that has made new friends for their race and for women's suffrage. They have proved that they are trying to keep step with the March of Progress, and that with a little patience, trust, and vision, the universal tie of motherhood and sisterhood can and will overcome prejudice against them as voters. Now, I ask them to come forward and join us on the platform to say a few words.
Thank you, Mrs. Kenny. My commitment to women's suffrage is rooted in the church. As a pastor's wife, I seek a purpose and independent role for my husbands for women of both colored and Christian Methodist Episcopal churches. Surely, this is the age of women. Take the women of the church as a whole, and they are the means by which the church succeeds and the gospel is promulgated. Yes. Outside the church, Negro women support reform programs for all women, including pensions for mothers, protective legislation for women and children in the labor force, equal pay for men and women school teachers, settlement houses, and women's suffrage. Only in Nashville have Tennessee colored women been invited to work with white women on behalf of women enfranchisement. Working with the Negro clubs in Nashville, I helped register us for the 1919 local election. Of the 7,500 women who registered to vote, 2,500 were Negro. And we were 22% of the women who voted in Nashville and Memphis. As promised, Mrs. Kenny, we voted for local reform candidates. All we ask in return is the white women's support for reforms that will benefit us. We have 12,000 women organized in Tennessee who seek a vocational school for our girls. We ask that you support us, and we will support you. Thank you. Mrs. Pierce?
I am the child of slaves. My vocation is school teacher. My civic duty is to the advancement of colored women. I am for women's suffrage. Now, some people ask, what will the Negro women do with the vote? Well, we will stand by the white women. We are optimistic because we have faith in the best white women of the country, of Nashville. And we are going to make you proud of us because we are going to help you as we help ourselves. Now, we are interested in the same moral uplift of the community in which you live as we are. We're only asking one thing, and that is a square deal. We want recognition in all forms of government. We want a state vocational school for delinquent girls, and we want a child welfare department of the state and more room in state schools. Now, everyone already knows what we can accomplish when Negro women and white women work together. I'm speaking of Bethlehem House here in Nashville, where they offer educational activities for poor colored children and also for the delinquent girls. And this group raises money for the school through both the Negro and the white communities. And they administer this through a board and volunteers made up of both races. Now, Mrs. Coleman and I, as well as all of our colleagues across the state, we hope to join you to press for the passage of the 19th Amendment in the Tennessee General Assembly. We shall not be denied the vote. And as Negro suffragist Lottie Rollin argued in 1869, speaking to the South Carolina House of Representatives, a woman's vote is a human right. Yes. Now we ask for suffrage, not as a favor, not as a privilege, but as a right. Because we are human beings. And as such, we are entitled to all human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. In just a few days, the questions of women enfranchisement will be decided on the floor of the Tennessee General Assembly. Now, we have conducted a poll of the legislators and found that many are undecided. We need your help now more than ever. We must let it be known that for our children's future, we women must have the vote. Join us today. Women's votes are human rights. We will close out our rally today by having Mrs. J. Frankie Pierce lead us in a song which is to the tune of America. You may find the words to the song in your program.
My country, 'tis of thee to make the women free. This is our plea. I have our hopes been raised in these enlightened days, that for her justice grace all men might be. My native country, where the equality, then shall we see. In this fair land of life, justice and truth and right, ruling in heaven, yours is mercy.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Before we open up the talk back, I just wanted to thank Ducray, the League of Women Voters, and Tim and Timothy. I know it's been great for all of us to get back to live theater, and I am really moved and grateful, so thank you so much for that. I believe I'd like to ask, starting with the League of Women Voters members, what does the 19th Amendment mean to you, and what does it mean to you to be part of the League of Women Voters?
Hello. Jocelyn Castro here, proud Plainfield Chapter League of Women Voters member. The 19th Amendment means a lot because it gave us voices, it gave us rights, and it also united women of all colors and all backgrounds. Very inspiring. And the reason why I'm a member of the League of Women Voters today is because I would like to get more Latino involvement and more Latino voters here in Plainfield. And I would also like to get a lot more people interested in local politics because local politics are just as important as national politics.
Yes.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay? No?
I should shout. My name is Catherine Balch. I'm the secretary of the League of Women Voters in Plainfield. And I came to this group after the election 4 years ago, and I felt that there was a lot I wanted to do to change the situation nationally, but I really didn't have a lot of power over the national situation. But maybe I could do something locally through educating members of the community in whatever the issues were before the public. The 19th Amendment to me is the way that our country holds its population accountable, so that the women that these women represent made it happen. And the law, the 19th Amendment, legal action, made it a different society. So that not just small groups of people could vote, not just one gender could vote, but that everybody could vote. And what it's led to is a wider distribution of people involved in our justice system, in our legal system, in our political system, and what we have to say about how we're ruled. Thank you.
Well, I echo the sentiments of Catherine and Jocelyn in regards to the importance of the 19th Amendment. I got involved with the League of Women Voters because when I was young, my mother was part of the League of Women Voters. And I remember the meetings at the House, and I remember how passionate they were and how important the cause was. And I happened to see on the Facebook feed that Plainfield had a chapter, and I couldn't believe it, so I dragged my sister down, and we joined. When you have conversations with these millennials now, some of them don't understand the importance of voting. And my heart broke because my son actually said to me, doesn't matter if I vote. That is horrible. I don't know how they got that impression. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm motivated and invigorated, and we have some things that we're planning here in Plainfield. So I just have to caution you all that the younger generation, they do not understand the importance of it. I don't know where it got lost in translation. I don't know when that became the norm, or whatever, my vote doesn't count, but we really have to get the word out. We all have work to do, because it's not just my son who feels that way, trust and believe, so we all got to get out and do it. But this was great, and I thank you all, and this is fantastic. So thank you all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bernice Crawford. I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of Hillside. We're not as old as Plainfield, we're 37 years. And what brought me to the League of Women Voters, I remember as a young lady watching these powerful women, these well-taught head crews, sitting in a debate, 2 men for president. I thought that was the most powerful thing I had to see. As I got older and came back in contact and understood who the league was, I had to join. So I've been a member for about 35 years. As far as the amendment, the 19th Amendment, if you look at what's going on today, if women did not have the right to vote, we would not be doing what we're doing at this time. I understand that the countries who have women leaders are the ones who are leading the charge with COVID and finding they're controlling it better than we are because they have women leaders. And that's why we need to continue to not just women in the league, but men as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Arlene Sincaglia with the League of Women Voters of Berkeley Heights and Providence and Summit. As a child of immigrants, I learned growing up that voting is your most important right. It's one thing that you have in the United States that many other countries don't give their citizens. And that not only was it important to vote, but it was also important to learn about the candidates and to choose candidates that mirror your values. And therefore, I became a member of the League of Women Voters because an educated voter is the best voter. And everything that affects us comes through legislation. And if we don't vote for the people that make the laws, we're screwed, basically. So, yay, 100 years, congratulations.
Thank you again for joining us, and thank you again to Ducray. We so appreciate being here.